Good day, got a brand new coffee stout to digest. Two Roads Espressway cold brew coffee stout. It's a coffee steeped in oatmeal stout beer. And it was a little unclear at first if this was a beer where they just brewed cold brew coffee and then mixed it in the beer, but it's not. They say that they mixed locally roasted Ethiopian and Sumatran beans with a rich oatmeal stout under pressure, like espresso without the steam, using a German-built Brewnik device. I think I've heard of the Brewnik. And the mixture is steeped for several days. So it's as if they made cold brew coffee, but instead of like making cold brew coffee with water and throwing it in the beer, they did it in the beer itself. And I think that's different than some other cold brew beers I've had from like Trillium that I've really enjoyed, where I think they just added coffee to them. And I've had some other beers where they just added coffee to the beer, and I like those a lot because it seems like if you just do a sort of French press thing with the coffee in the beer, it can be a little too charred and burnt, mixing all that roasted barley with coffee. This one just came out. It was bottled under a month ago, well under a month ago. So the coffee's probably in tip-top shape. Been getting pretty good reviews. And I love oatmeal stouts, and I'm loving these cold brew coffee beers, so I have pretty high hopes. And this is Two Roads' first year-round dark beer at all. They haven't really done too many stouts, just like two different ones, seasonal imperial stouts. And I was thinking it was just going to be a seasonal, but if it's really good and it's year-round and 6-packs at a reasonable price, that's going to make me very happy. I can already smell some of the intensity of the roast there. Ooh, kind of a hard pour, I guess. Kind of highly carbonated, maybe. And almost totally filtered. Or filtered, and I'm not seeing much in the bottom, just like most Two Roads beers. It's a pretty dark head on top of there. Not too dense. The bubbles are starting to pop. You can see a little bit on there. It's not the densest. It's very, very black, though. The reason I like oatmeal stouts a lot is because the oatmeal flavor, I think, and as an almost creamy vanilla sort of thing to it, and usually add some creaminess to the texture. And traditionally oatmeal stouts are a little bit sweet and not too bitter with too many hops in there. Ooh, that smells very nice. That smells, yeah, like cappuccino. It has that slightly creamy vanilla coffee thing going on. It smells a little bit sweet. I feel like the oatmeal really combined with coffee just is very, very nice. And it's different from like the Founder's Breakfast Stout, where that one I feel like is pretty bitter and roasty. It smells different than that. That one's a coffee and chocolate oatmeal stout, but it's stronger, and I think they must use the coffee in a different way. Because this has, yeah, just a little bit of char in espresso, but it has that really smooth espresso thing going on, like in a cappuccino. Pretty big aroma, too. It's 6.5% alcohol. There's a little bit, almost of a licoricey, hoppy, charred thing going on, but not too much. That's a main element in stouts. I usually know it's going to be too roasty and bitter for my taste, at least. But that sweet, creamy coffee is really ruling the aroma, and it's very fresh and smells like really nice coffee. It's got some floral notes to it, and some deep, dark fruits even in there, too. Yeah, I bet this is going to be pretty good. Really nice flavor. Flavor's a lot like the smell. But it's not quite as sweet as I thought it was going to be. But they pull off those nice sweet flavors. the body is not super full, like a lot of people die for in all their dark beers. They always want that full, rich body. It's not that huge. It's just slightly astringent. But at least so far, I'm not getting too much of a char and hop bitterness to make it unpalatable. But that was just the first sip. Only seeing a few ruby edges in the color there. Otherwise, it's pretty dark. Oh, I can use my special super strong flashlight to inspect this more deeply. Yeah, most stouts, you can notice, yeah, you can see a little bit of that red in there. Yeah, there are only a couple imperial stouts that are impervious to the light of this flashlight. But I think that's good, because if we're using that much intense roasted barley or black patent malt, it would just combine with the coffee and be too much. It's pretty creamy. I mean, the body is medium full, but it does have this, yeah, somewhat thinner, astringent, bitter coffee finish that I wish was just a little bit sweeter. That's just for my tastes. Maybe I could just pour a sweeter beer in here or something to level it out. This would probably make a pretty good beer float. But I like it a lot. I would highly recommend this for anyone looking for a good coffee beer at a reasonable price, because a lot of these good cold brew coffee beers are, small batch things and that are kind of expensive in bigger bottles, even though, everyone's been making stouts forever and Americans can make great stouts. But I think lately Americans have been experimenting with new ways to infuse a coffee in the stouts, and it's making some beers that I think are really delicious. And this is definitely part of that that wave of new coffee beers. I'm not sure. The somewhat high carbonation is making it a little bit fluffy. And maybe that's making the sweetness seem a little bit lower. I wonder how this would be, once it warms up a little bit and the carbonation dies down a little bit. It might be seem a little richer to me. The coffee is really front and center. I'm getting plenty of fruity notes, like a little bit of raisin, pruny black currant, mixed in with that creamy vanilla cappuccino espresso thing. And like kind of really burnt nuts. Almost hazelnut, but not like the overly flavored hazelnut coffees. Maybe almost like Brazil nut. This might be good, with some pecans in it, a little bit of pecan syrup. For some reason with these dark beers, I consider making beer cocktails a little more. That's really nice. It's like I guess it's a really good everyday sort of coffee stout, and I'm not getting too much bitterness and acridity nor acidity in the finish to make it too intense for me, like some very bitter stouts. It is a pretty good middle of the road but pretty intense coffee stout. I like it quite a bit. I think it deserves a little more than probably an 80, probably like a, I don't know, 81. Just go one tiny notch higher. But it doesn't attain that super creamy sweet quality to it. But I think I don't know if they're really going for that with this beer. They're just going for a coffee stout for any occasion, not necessarily a dessert beer. Though you could throw some ice cream in here and make it a dessert, definitely. But I've finished, already a third at least of this. So it's going down quickly. But I think 80, 81, 82, 81.5 is a good score for the Two Roads Espressway cold brew coffee stout. Goodbye.